Hi, welcome back to Wake Up with Natalie Rose, the channel that helps you think less about food in your body and more about truly living. Today, we're diving into the fear of judgment. And since perfectionists especially struggle with this, I want to share how I'm currently challenging my own perfectionism. So number one, I'm not recording this episode on video, which I usually do for YouTube. Why? Because I wasn't feeling great last week, so I didn't have time to record ahead of time. And now I don't have time to edit the video. My perfectionism wanted to tell me, screw it. If you can't do it perfectly, if you can't do it how you always do, then just skip it altogether. But where does that actually get me? It gets me nowhere. It gets me trapped in the cycle of thinking that I have to be perfect to show up, that I have to do things the right way or exactly the same every time. And that's just not true. There's always going to be something, whether it's my fatigue, which I'm going through right now with pregnancy, or whether it's having a little one in about 3 months from now, or just any general stress. Like there's always going to be something that gets in the way. So if I'm always trying to show up 100% or not at all, then that's not really how I want to live. That's not, to me, living authentically. So at least by releasing this episode on the podcast, I'm showing up for Wake Up Wednesday instead of posting nothing at all. Plus, I want to talk about this topic. I'm excited to. And so if I let my perfectionism run the show, I wouldn't even be allowing myself to do something I enjoy. And that's been me for a long time. I tend to procrastinate because of perfectionism. So pushing through and posting this episode, even just in one format instead of two, helps me challenge the idea that I have to be perfect to show up. That's just not true. Plus, I'm feeling a little bit tired because I'm pregnant and didn't sleep great last night. And another thing perfectionism always wants me to do is basically use any slight discomfort as an excuse to avoid something, right? It wants me to wait until I have peak energy levels and have the right amount of time before I can do something, which has been such a barrier. So here's to practicing what I preach, breaking down barriers, and showing up authentically. Now, let's get into the episode. Have you ever thought to yourself, I've gained weight and people are going to think I've let myself go? I can't handle that. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can handle that. And in this episode, I'm going to show you how. The other day, I shared a reel on Instagram showing you how to shift your mindset when you're feeling quote unquote fat and you don't want to go out because you're afraid to be judged. And I received a comment in response to that reel saying, yeah, sure, it's all good until someone mentions your weight or looks. Meaning, going out and seeing people is all good until someone makes a comment about your appearance. And I totally agree. Receiving a comment about your weight or your appearance is almost 100% not helpful. Like if it's negative, such as, oh, you look like you've gained weight, it feels like a judgment and it brings up a lot of shame and anger and sadness and other painful emotions. But even if it's a positive comment, like, wow, you look amazing, that kind of still has a harmful effect because you subconsciously develop this pressure to live up to that. And it reinforces the idea that your appearance is the most important thing that people will always notice first. I don't know about you, but I've always felt so uncomfortable showing up to a family gathering and just something about my family. I would immediately get comments about my makeup or my jewelry or what I'm wearing. And even though I spent so much time putting thought and effort into those things, thinking like this will make me look better or this will lead me to approval in some way, it's like once I received that approval, I felt uncomfortable. It's this paradox of wanting to be seen and wanting to hide at the same time. Anyways, my point is that comments are just typically not helpful at all, right? And sometimes people become reliant on external feedback about their appearance in order to feel good, and they doubt themselves if no one says anything. So either way, you're kind of stuck in this weird position. So I think it's completely valid to never want to receive a comment about your body. I just want to normalize that. But what I thought about in response to this person's response about others mentioning your weight or looks was that no matter what kind of judgments or comments you're exposed to, it's better to live your life in the outside world being judged than it is to isolate yourself to avoid judgment. Why? Because by avoiding the pain of judgment, you become the pain. I'm going to say that again. By avoiding pain, you become the pain. Now, let me explain this one because it's so good. This comes directly from a workshop I did a couple months ago where I was talking about how hard it is to change the core beliefs you have about your body, about yourself, and about other people in the world. And one participant shared that holding on to her negative beliefs that people would bully and reject her for her body if she gained weight came from her real past experiences of being bullied. She spent most of her adulthood punishing her body with crazy diets and hiding from people to the point that she essentially became her own biggest bully because her internal dialogue was so negative and she was constantly mistreating her body in order to fit a standard that was set for her at an early age. And she realized, wait a minute, I'm my own bully now. By trying so hard to avoid the pain of further bullying and rejection, she was living that pain every day at the hands of her own internal critic. And in that workshop I shared that to change our inner critic and our internal dialogue, the way we think, feel, and judge ourselves, is by thinking differently and doing things differently, such as learning how to have more compassion for ourselves, not choosing criticism. And an example could be going out instead of hiding from others. And so another participant in the workshop asked, okay, well, let's say I do challenge myself. I do go to the party and expose myself to potential judgment. What if someone does comment on my body? Then what do I do? How am I supposed to rewire my belief that my body is wrong if it keeps happening to me? I keep getting treated that way. And my answer was by learning how to cope with judgment differently. Because avoiding judgment only leads you to isolation. Sure, you don't receive any judgment, but you also don't receive any connection or source of joy or fun in all these experiences that you're missing out on. But by facing judgment and learning how to cope with it differently, then at least we open up our world to be able to experience other things like joy, connection, other experiences, living our values. But we're all so used to taking another person's judgment at face value because it confirms what we already think about ourselves. If you were bullied at a young age or even just exposed to a lot of comments centering around your body, then the idea has been planted in your brain that there's something wrong with your appearance or something wrong with you. I'm just giving an example. This might not resonate for you or for everyone, but let's say this is what you experienced and then what your core belief is. Did anyone ever stop to question that maybe there was something wrong with the person bullying you? Sure, maybe they were thin and you were larger, but so what? That itself doesn't justify bullying or justify their negative comments because body diversity is a normal human experience. You'll find it all around the world. Their bullying is a sign that they are insecure and potentially that they're not a very nice person. But you could be a nice person. You could be a very good person. So why should you be made to feel like you're in the wrong when they're the ones victimizing you? Think about it this way. Confident people don't shy away from potential judgment, not because they don't get hurt by it, but because they know that one or a few people's negative opinions about them don't dictate the whole truth, nor stop them from showing up and wanting to live a good life. Because when we lack confidence, which is just a skill that can be learned, by the way, our brain tends to categorize things into black and white. When we get hurt, we start thinking all people could hurt us. When we feel a negative emotion that we don't know how to process, we assume that we must be bad because we feel badly. But confident people, or once you learn the skill of confidence, you don't allow your brain to view things in such extremes, right? Confident people keep going because they know that in addition to those who will judge them, there are also people who value them, who won't bully them, who do love them, and who know that they have value to offer. Confident people live in the gray area. And that's all we have to do to build confidence is start recognizing that, yes, you felt hurt by that judgment or by that person's comment. And no, it's not the whole truth. Let's talk about the phrase letting yourself go. Because honestly, It's not even a thing when you know that you've let yourself live. I personally love being able to eat whatever I want without worrying about whether my weight will change. I love being able to focus on passions and projects and things I'm interested in instead of always putting those behind meal planning, exercise, and beauty routines. Does that mean that I've let myself go? No, it means I've let myself be free. It doesn't mean that I don't care about how I look or that I no longer, exercise at all or that I no longer care about health. I mean, I care about all those things and I do enjoy movement and I do enjoy a variety of foods, but I live so much more freely now making space for my other passions because those things bring me joy. Those things help me feel like I'm living. And you know what? Living freely has always been the ultimate goal, even when I didn't know it. I thought that my life needed to be dictated by rules and restrictions. I thought I had to look perfect and be perfect to feel good. But living confidently and freely from others' expectations is true happiness and freedom. And again, that doesn't mean I don't care what people think. I do. I care what my husband thinks. I care what my friends think. I care what my family thinks. I care what my audience on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube thinks. I care about what you think. But I only take in the information that is relevant to me. For example, if I've done something to hurt someone or I've said something that was truly offensive or out of line, I've said or done something that goes against my values, then I'll definitely reevaluate my behavior and do whatever I can to make amends, right? That's where healthy guilt comes in. I would feel guilty and I would think about it. Did I do something that goes against my morals, my values? If the answer is yes, I would do whatever I could do to make amends. But if someone doesn't like what I have to say, even though I firmly stand by what I said, it does align with my morals and values, then that's just an uncomfortable feeling that I have to get over, right? Because the truth is not everyone is going to agree with me. Not everyone is going to like me. There was a time when that would have crushed me and caused me to spiral, second guessing everything I said or even who I am. Right? Like I used to experience symptoms of panic, even just getting up in front of a classroom doing a presentation. But with lots of practice and consistently showing up and reflecting on what is true for me, I can now handle criticism and conflict because I know it's not the end of the world. And that's how it's supposed to be. The upside to learning how to cope with disagreement or judgment or rejection is that you get to connect more with the people who do agree with you. You get to find your community and finally feel like you belong somewhere, even if it means you don't belong everywhere. Does that make sense? There's no such thing as letting yourself go if you're letting yourself enjoy life in a way that you never could when you were constantly micromanaging your body and your weight. And that's what I want for you, is to stop fearing the idea that someone might say, oh, you've let yourself go. And instead to confidently say, no, actually, I let myself experience the fullness of life. Because trust me, the people who would even say something like that aren't truly living. They're stuck in rigid ways of thinking about how bodies should look and how eating should look and what productivity should look like. They live in the shoulds, and shoulds come from shame. And that's not where we want to live anymore. We live with compassion, flexibility, variety, ups and downs, and the full spectrum of emotions, because that is what a life worth living entails. There's going to be times in your life when your weight fluctuates. That's it. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. Now, I want you to imagine how you'd feel if you didn't fear judgment. Imagine walking into a room, not worried about what people are thinking. Imagine feeling completely neutral or even excited to see who's there. Imagine what kind of things you would do if you weren't afraid of what people thought. Would you pursue an activity you used to love, like dance? Would you take singing lessons? Would you create art? Would you eat what you want at social events instead of filling your plate with just the quote unquote healthy options? Would you take a break from work instead of worrying that others are going to think you're lazy? Would you go to the beach wearing the bikini instead of a cover up or a big t-shirt? Would you start going to the gym despite how you feel about your current size or your body? Would you travel? Would you wear what you want? Would you take pictures? Would you start vlogging? Would you start a YouTube channel and speak about things you're passionate about? Would you figure out what you're passionate about? Pursue a passion? How would you act if you didn't fear judgment? The thing is, doing these things is really the only way to overcome the fear of judgment, because trust me, you will be judged. We all get judged. I get judged. Hate to break it to you, but you're already being judged in one way or another, unless you live under a rock, which doesn't sound very exciting. And, I've been there. My life sucked. Coming from past experience, I would rather be living my life and be judged than hiding away to avoid judgment. I tried that and it made things a million times worse. So the next time you worry that someone will think you let yourself go, I want you to ask yourself, have I actually let myself live? Am I experiencing more joy, more freedom, more connection, more opportunities? If the answer is yes, then remind yourself that it's okay to care what others think. You're human. You're supposed to care what others think. You're wired with it. But that doesn't mean that their perceptions are 100% true. Their opinions don't define you. In fact, their opinions reflect their own fears and worries and rigidity about how they think they should be living their life. What matters more, the only thing that matters, is how you feel in your life. What matters is that you're living for yourself. It would be a shame to let someone else's judgment dictate how you experience your life, especially when they're not even the ones living your life for you. And if the answer is no, if you too truly believe that you've let yourself go, I want you to pause and reflect. Is that belief rooted in having unrealistic expectations about what your life should look like? Do you have rigid rules like needing to wake up at 6 a.m., eat veggies at every meal, or work out every single day? If so, where did those rules come from? Are they truly serving you? This is about reevaluating what you think is right versus wrong, really questioning where these ideas came from. Because remember, everything that goes through your mind was learned. And what we learn isn't necessarily always the truth. Sometimes we really have to reevaluate what we think and decide if it's what we currently think about life and how we want to keep thinking. Or if instead you feel like you have neglected your well-being, maybe your sleep is suffering, your eating feels chaotic, or your work-life balance is way off, that could be a potential reason why the judgment of letting yourself go could feel so harsh, because you really do feel like you have let yourself go. Then can you, with compassion, ask yourself, what is one small thing I can do to bring more balance into my life? Because just judging yourself for letting yourself go, even if that does reflect a truth of not taking care of yourself, the judgment itself is not going to help you. What is going to help you is treating yourself with compassion and asking yourself, what can I do to bring more balance into my life? What can I do to help myself? Thank you for tuning in to Wake Up with Natalie Rose this week. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you want more support with building confidence and healing from body-related shame and fear of judgment, make sure to drop your name on the waitlist for CommunEATy, my intimate group coaching membership that helps you heal your relationship with food, with your body, and most importantly, with yourself. Talk to you next time.